a well-architected framework. So thank you very much for joining us. And just a few reminders for everyone. This is a safe space. The reason why we decided to organize this community or start this community is we want a community for women and LGBT plus who are interested to learn and hone their AWS skills. We want to make a difference by mentoring more women and uh, help create a more diverse community also. We want to, as I mentioned, we want to contribute to diversity and inclusiveness in the tech industry. Uh, this is a flat organization. We are all organizers and volunteers. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to interact with the speakers and then the community also. And we hope that you'll enjoy the topics tonight. And just a quick run through of our program. So we'll have our first speaker first, Ms. Oksana Horlock, who will talk about serverless, and we'll have a Q&A after. And then we'll have Ms. Andra Garland, who will talk about well-architected framework. And then we'll have a Q&A with her after. So we'll be raffling off some AWS credits as well. So we hope that you stay tuned until the end of this session. So again, thank you very much to our speakers for making time and helping us grow this community also. So let me introduce quickly our first speaker. Ms. Oksana Horlock is based out in UK. So thank you very much, Oksy. Oksana is a site reliability engineer based in the UK. She has been in the tech industry for 7 years, and her previous career was an English teacher. So really amazing. She's an AWS community builder and loves helping others to learn about AWS. So thank you very much, Oksy. We'll proceed with your presentation on serverless. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Seth. Just to clarify a little bit, it's my presentation is about like a specific serverless service, no, rather than the whole of the serverless framework. Yeah. Okay, great.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me here as well. Can you see the screen? Okay. Yeah, cool. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Oksana Horlock, and as Shell said, that I'm a site reliability engineer at a company called 67 Bricks in Oxford. Here's my Twitter handle if you would like to follow. And today I'm going to tell you about S3 Object Lambda. Just a few words about myself. I have been in tech for 7 years. I started working with AWS about 2 years ago, and I really like it. I'm a part of the AWS Community Builders program, which I also really enjoy. And I hold a few AWS certifications. Okay, so S3 Object Lambda. Now, sometimes we have a problem that several applications or several users require different data from a single object that is stored in S3. Or it may be that you have a file in S3 and your users require different formats generated from this one file. So this is where S3 Object Lambda can really help you because it allows you to add code to S3 GET requests. So the use cases of S3 Object Lambda are things like log filtering when you want to get, for example, different information, filter information from logs. If you want to filter CSV records, if you want to reformat a document or image, and in general, it may be useful with any shared datasets. before I explain how S3 object lambda works, I want to touch on a bit on its on an important part of it, which is S3 access point. So S3 access points are network endpoints that are attached to an S3 bucket, and they give you granular permissions for different apps and users. And those permissions apply to any requests that are made through this access endpoint. And this access point policy works in conjunction with the bucket policy that is attached to the underlying bucket. An S3 access point can also be restricted to a particular VPC, which is useful if you have any special security requirements. And it's worth noting that S3 access points only allow to perform operations on objects rather than buckets themselves, for example. An S3 access point points come at no additional cost. Okay, so how does S3 object lambda works? So you have an application here, and the application makes a request to S3. Then the object lambda access point evaluates this request. If it's a non-get request, if it's a post or delete, for example, it uses the underlying S3 access point, which is called the supporting endpoint, which goes to get data from S3 and returns it to the application. If it's a get request, then a lambda function that is associated with the access point is executed. It also uses the supporting the S3 access point to get the data, and then gives it back to the S3 object lambda, and that returns it back to the application. S3 object lambdas are supported by all lambda runtimes, and S3 object lambdas are limited to 60 seconds. And I think the maximum number of S3 object lambdas that you can have per account per region is 1,000. So with S3 object lambda, you pay for the AWS Lambda compute time, and you pay for S3 requests that are invoked by your Lambda function. Let's have a look at an example. So imagine you have an S3 bucket where XML files are dropped, and these are XML files of scientific articles. A snippet here you can see on the screen. So an article usually consists of several parts. It contains a front that includes information about the journals, for example, the journal, the authors, and so on. Then it has a body which describes which is the actual text of the article, and then it contains the back of the article, which is like supplementary information and things like citations. So imagine you have these files in your S3 bucket, and some users or some applications just want to get a particular part of that file. Some only want the front, some only want the back. So we can use object lambda to for this to implement this requirement. And now I have deployed an S3 object lambda to my AWS account. I used AWS CDK, which is a cloud development kit, and it's an infrastructure as code tool provided by AWS. And I'm just going to go through what resources I have deployed. So I have a bucket where XML files are going to be dropped. Then I have deployed a Lambda function, the code of which I will show you in a minute. And then to the Lambda execution role, I have added a policy that allows get object response action of the S3 object Lambda. And yeah, the Lambda function needs permission to needs this permission to call back to the object lambda, and access point, yeah, it needs this permission. Then we have the supporting access point that I have deployed here. And then I have an actual object lambda access points. So this access point will return us the front of the article. It's called XML front. Here, as you can see, we specify the supporting access point. And in the transformation configuration section, we specify what action is going to use. It's going to be get object, because at the moment S3 object lambda only supports get object actions. And then what lambda function we are going to use to do content transformation. And here I specify that it's a lambda function. And then I have to provide the function, lambda function, Amazon resource name, which is required. And then you can also pass the a parameter within function payload. Here I'm passing front. And function payloads, payload can be used to pass parameters into lambda function. And this way, a single lambda function can be used for multiple access points. So that's for XML front. And then I have a very similar access point to process XML back. Just with a different, the only difference here is the name of the access point and the function payload. Now, here's the lambda function itself. Let's have a look what we have here. So in the lambda context, we have input S3 URL. That is a pre-signed URL that can be used to access S3 buckets. And it's basically, it gives you time-limited permission to download the objects. And then we have request root and request token. These are used to send the response back to the correct column. And then we also have the payload that I passed in the function payload parameter. Then I use HTTP client and use the input S3 URL to get an object. And then based on the payload that is received in the context of the function, I return either the front or the back of the article. And then finally, I use write get object response API to send the result back to the S3 object lambda. So because we use a supporting access point, the lambda function itself doesn't need to have special permissions to retrieve the original object. And it only uses the permissions of the S3 access point, of the supporting access point. Okay, and just a little demo I'm going to show here. So I have deployed this XML bucket as I showed, and I have a file that I'm going to drop into it that looks like this. Just a very simple file with front, body, and back. I'm going to upload here. Okay, and now I'm going to use AWS CLI to call the object lambda access point. as you can see, I'm using S3 API, and you can notice that I'm using the get object request, yeah? And then instead of the bucket name, we use the arm of the S3 object lambda here. Then we specify what object we want to transform and the file that will come out. Okay, so now if we have a look at example front, it returns us only the front of the article. And if we do the same with the back, so I'll change the access point to be XML back, and the key will be XML back as well. And this returns the back of the article. Okay, so that's the kind of the generic overview of S3 Object Lambda, and that's it from me today. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Oksana. To the attendees, if you just hopped in or just joined us, you can put your questions on the chat, and then we'll ask Oxy to answer it. But I think we have one right now, Oxy. Give me a second.
I think there is a question. Can we now put object?
There you go. Jaira asked a question. She said, like, from what I know, Lambda can retrieve from S3. So with S3 object Lambda, can we now put object from Lambda to S3? Any thoughts on that, Oxy?
I think you can only do GET request at the moment, but I will double check. Maybe something has changed. But I think it's only possible to do GET. But I will double check. Thanks.
There's another question, not on the chat, but you sent to me directly. Like, how do you usually get around the 15-minute execution limit of Lambda if there's a task or process that will take more than that? Any tips?
I think maybe in this case, Lambda might not be the best solution if it's a long-running process. Yeah. I guess, yeah, EC2 maybe, or you could use perhaps if it's a process that consists of several steps, it might be possible to use step functions for that
instead of Lambda.
All
right, thank you. Oh, we have another one. Does AWS S3 object have separate AWS CLI command? Right now we have AWS S3 for S3 commands. Can this be used as well?
You mean does S3 object Lambda have specific CLI commands?
Yes.
Yes. No, because the point of the object Lambda is that it works with a get object, yeah, so that you don't need anything special. You don't need any other special commands. I think there's another one. For someone who's just starting to study AWS, what's the best area to start learning for coding test purposes? I think a good resource to use is AWS Labs. I think if you go to aws.training, you can register in the portal, and it has a series of labs of different levels, beginners as well, to start learning, and I think a lot of them are free, if not most. And also I use a platform called Cloud Academy. It's not free, but I think it's quite good for learning about AWS.
That's a good starting point also, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, MJ will have cloud practitioner certification, review and mentoring all throughout the Sundays of March. So that's a good starting point for you also, if you want to learn or start with AWS as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah,
yes. Well, that's how I started. That's how I started, because when I started in my current workplace, so I didn't know anything about the cloud, so I started with cloud practitioner certification.
Yeah, because you need to have a good foundation.
Yes.
Any other questions for Oxy? All right. We know you still have work, Oxy. So we're not going to take so much of your time. We appreciate you sharing about, S3, about Lambda rather, on serverless. And we do hope to have you again for our future meetups. And maybe we can talk more about, another set of, serverless products or AWS technologies.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks. Pleasure.
All right. We have another speaker. Right. For those who just joined in, welcome again. I'm Shell Gray. I'm one of the volunteers, and I'm now hosting the meetup tonight. Okay, let me quickly introduce our next speaker who will be talking about well-architected framework. So we have Miss Andra Glavan. I hope I pronounce your name properly. Andra is a DevOps engineer at Vodafone. She has a background in engineering and made the change from telecom to IT. She is an AWS community builder, and she is involved in the community by writing articles and helping out organizing serverless days, Amsterdam meetups. When she is not building, you can probably find her reading, learning for the next certification, or just scrolling on LinkedIn. She achieved all 3 AWS associate level certifications within 8 months. That's really, really amazing, Andra. So let's give Andra a warm welcome, a warm Filipino welcome. And those who joined us from different parts of the world, welcome as well. Thank you, Andra, for joining us. Andra, I think you're still on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
And you can see me as well, I think. Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for the nice introduction, and thanks for having me. I will start with sharing my screen and with a presentation. So let me know if you can see it. Okay, I think everything works all right. So hello, thank you so much for having me today. I'm going to talk about the importance of the AWS Well-Architected framework. But before that, let's start with a bit of introduction about myself. I know Shell said a lot about me, but I can also add that Lately, I've been involved in volunteering for the CDK Day as well. I'm based in Bucharest, Romania, and I have 4 AWS certifications. Feel free to ask me anything in the Q&A session. I will be happy to answer. So that's enough about me. Let's see what we are going to talk about today. I will start by presenting what the AWS Well-Architected framework is, and what are its pillars, why we should know about it, or why is it so important for everybody. A bit about the review process, and I will close by sharing a few resources. So, what is the AWS Well-Architected framework? It's a set of best practices to run any workload in the cloud. If you think about it, on-prem application, there are a lot of best practices there as well. And similar to this, the framework sums up the best practices for deploying those applications, but in the cloud. So why it was created is because the AWS solution architects designed and reviewed thousands of customers' workloads, and from this experience, they identified and selected the best practices and core strategies for architecting systems in the cloud. Um, it helps us to ask insightful questions and opens up discussions about what is the best architecture for us. And it currently has 6 pillars, uh, which we're going to be talking about in the next slides. But for each of these pillars, it will state what are the design principles, what is the definition, what are the best practices, and it shares a few resources. What is not the AWS Well-Architected framework is not an auditing tool, meaning it won't say if our decision is wrong or right. It will guide us to ask the right questions and obtain the best outcome for our goals. So these are the 6 pillars of the framework, and I will start with the operational excellence. Operational excellence is the ability to support development and run workloads effectively, gain insight into their operations, and continuously improve supported processes and procedures to deliver, of course, business value. Security focuses on the ability to protect information, systems, and assets while still delivering the business value that we want. Reliability focuses on the ability to perform at the required function correctly and consistently over a period of time. It includes the ability to operate and test the workload. Performance efficiency focuses on the ability to use computing resources efficiently to meet the system requirements and to also maintain the efficiency as demand changes, and of course, while technologies evolve. Cost optimization is the ability to run the systems at the lowest price point while still delivering the business value. Sustainability pillar is a new one, and we'll be talking about it in the next slide because I have this nice picture that I want to share. So last year at reInvent, Dr. Werner Wochels, the CTO of Amazon, announced this new pillar. And this is the picture I took live from that keynote presentation. The sustainability pillar focuses on the ability to continually improve sustainability by reducing energy consumption and increasing efficiency across all components. I put here a bit of information about the climate pledge. The climate pledge was co-founded by Amazon with global optimism in 2019, and since then a lot of other companies like VMware, Salesforce, and Accenture have joined them, which shows like the commitment from their side to the carbon footprint reduction. So why we should know about it, and what is the importance of the AWS Well-Architected framework? Well, by using this framework, we will architect our solutions following the best practices for designing and operating systems that are reliable, secure, efficient, cost-effective, and sustainable in the cloud. It will enable discussions and will help us set expectations for the workload behavior. It will also guide us to develop consistent best practices for reducing risks and increasing business value. And other benefits also include um, less time spent on building and deploying the application, reduced risk, consistency, insights, and increased level of observability. It also ensures cloud native approach. This helps us build right from the start fully scalable and highly performant application. Another concept that is presented in this framework that also helps a lot with all of this is having game days. Game days will help us set expectation and discover how to meet them. They will ensure the team knows the product and the possible gaps can be identified and fixed, improving further the solution and the team collaboration as well. The review process can be done using this one of these three methods. First is the AWS Well-Architected tool. It's a tool in the AWS console that guides us in analyzing and also setting up some milestones that we want to achieve for our workloads. AWS SaaS Lens is a domain specific, and it provides a set of additional questions um, to help us understand how to design, deploy, and architect our software as a service workload following the framework best practices. There are, for example, specific lenses like serverless or IoT. There is also the AWS Well-Architected Partner Program, where we can ask for help and guidance from an AWS partner. But what I really think it's important is that the review should take a blame-free approach, as the framework states. It should be a lightweight process that is a conversation and not an audit, because the purpose of reviewing the architecture is to identify any critical issues that might need be addressing or areas that can be improved. There will be, of course, some trade-offs between these pillars, and one important thing here is, however, the security and operational excellence are generally not to trade off. You wouldn't want to trade security for anything else, and these business decisions can drive the engineering priorities. We might optimize to reduce cost at the expense of reliability in development environments, or for mission critical solutions, we might want to optimize the reliability with increased cost. And I just want to say an example here. I saw this at my current company when we review the workload and we identified some cost reductions that can be made. The product owner just said that if cost is all we can save, then this will not be an action point for us, because our spendings were not over the given budget, and the effort for the team can be focused on improving another area of the solution. So this will probably not happen in smaller business or startups, but yeah, in big companies, I think this is a good point. Here are some resources for anybody who wants to know more about the Well-Architected framework, the official page for it, The white papers for each of the pillars are important if you want to dive deep into each of them. The training on the skill builder platform, there are actually two trainings, one with a badge if you're an AWS partner and one without a badge. Both are really good about uh, learning about the well-architected framework. And that's it. Thank you very much for having me. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me.
Thank you, Andra. To our attendees, do you have questions for Andra? Please feel free to ask questions.
I can maybe add some information about CDK Day, as I also saw Oxy talking about CDK, and so that I'm a volunteer there as well. There will be a CDK Day conference this year. It will happen on the 27th of May. And the CFPs will open soon, so everybody is welcome to to apply for this. And yeah, I can, if there are no questions for the moment, I can also share a bit on how I ended up going to reInvent. I think this is
Yeah, that's
this
very
is a
interesting. One of our community organizers and leads also, Rafi, is in this call as well, was able to attend, the most, well, it should be much bigger, but still relatively big event last December. Were you there as well, Andra? Yeah. Sorry, I'm not so sure if you heard me properly. Was the event you mentioned, was that the event last December? Yes. Okay. Yeah, please do share. Although we have some questions about well-architected framework. So let me know if you wanna share more. You wanna share first about the event, and then we can go ahead with the question about well-architected framework. Can you hear me? Or I think you're on mute. Yeah, please feel free to share about AWS reInvent. Okay. There you go.
yeah.
All right, that
Sorry,
worked.
it wouldn't
Sorry,
be a live
technical
presentation.
difficulties.
Yeah, of course. Yes, yes, I
Yeah,
was
that
there
happens
in
when you have a live stuff going.
exactly.
Pardon me, sorry
Yeah,
for that one. Yeah,
no
please
worries
do
at
go
all.
ahead. Please would love to hear more about your experience on AWS reInvent. And we have some really good questions about well-architected framework also.
Sounds great. Yeah, I wanted to share about it because I was joining for free. And it was by receiving a grant that is based on inclusivity, diversity, and equity. And yeah, I think maybe this is the right meetup to share about it. Maybe somebody else will want to apply for next year. The participants only can go once. So I won't be able to join again, but it was definitely a nice experience. And when they start accepting the application, you can just apply for it, and it's definitely wonderful. They pay for everything, so that's pretty awesome.
Pretty cool. If you don't mind me asking, how did you start, getting involved in organizing serverless days in your city? What made you
Um,
interested to be part of it?
I just volunteered in Amsterdam. It is like a plan for me to bring it to Bucharest, but I've been, let's say, too busy for that. For the Amsterdam meetup, I just volunteered. I was participating in meetups. I lived in the Netherlands for 2 years, and I was joining the meetup, and they were asking for volunteers, and I said, why not? This seems something nice to do. The people are always like open-minded. You can talk openly to them, and it was a nice experience. And following this experience, I joined CDK Day as well, because also I heard about how nice it is to collaborate with people. So yeah.
That's very inspiring. You know, you get to meet like-minded people. You get to learn how to level up your skills also. Or if you happen to stumble in a challenge in terms of like work or the technology that you're using, you can simply ask somebody else, right, for some help as well. So it's
Yeah.
really nice to be part of a community. That's on my experience, that's how I got interested to be involved also, because the company that I used to work for, we started the whole AWS practice, and we were building a product using Lambda and other AWS technologies. So it was really, really interesting. Okay, going back, there's a serverless question here that we might forget, and we're hoping that you could help us also. Give me a
Yep.
second. All right. Sorry, we have a long chat because we'll be issuing e-certificates also. Let me find it. Sorry for this one. Okay. Jaira, maybe you can bump up your question. Sorry. It got buried with all the direct questions that I have. There we go. Thank you, Jaira. Okay, so one of the pillars of well-architected framework is cost optimization, right? So containerization has sometimes helped cost optimize for traditional virtual machines. With containerization of database such as PostgreSQL help, or RDS will still be recommended, or other solutions will help cost on databases in general? Maybe you can
Yeah.
put this into three-part questions.
Yeah. So we can start with this containerization of the databases. I had never stumbled upon the subject, but my first thought about it is that it wouldn't be such a wise thing. It is a thing that it goes well for the virtual machines, images of the application, but maybe the databases should not be containerized. So in terms of RDS, definitely try to use just the size you need, because I've seen this at my current company as well, using big instances, and our databases doesn't do much, so we don't need those big instances, so we can pay less. And there is, of course, the Aurora serverless option, but you have to see if that's the best case for you, because it might add some costs instead of reducing it. So you will have to like compare two scenarios. But in my point of view, I think RDS will still stand, and maybe compare it with Aurora serverless.
Thank you for that, Andra. We have another question again. Jaira, yeah, you can quickly chat here. Was that helpful? Were we able to answer a question also? maybe it's a yes. From another attendee, from Alistair, how well architect differs from solutions architect?
So Well-Architect is the framework that just adds all the feedback the solution architects have gotten in during the years, and it will tell you about your solution if it meets like the best practices to go to the cloud. So it's a bit of a different concept. You still have your solution architecture, but you can see if it meets the best practices for deploying it into the cloud. If that's still unclear, I'm happy to explain it differently.
Do we have other questions? Yeah, feel free to ask.
In terms of trainings and certifications, I've started actually with the Solution Architect Associate. And during my second associate certification, I discovered a very useful training on Udemy. I can share the link. So usually it's on sale, so it's pretty accessible to people. Is by the Stefan Marek. I don't know if anybody heard about it. He's now an AWS hero. He really explains very, very well. And yeah, if anybody's interested in having a certification, I 100% recommend these trainings.
What made you decide to go with associate architect first? Well, for some they recommend to go with CCP first as a foundation, or maybe because of your background and experience also. That's why you skip. Maybe you can share about that as well.
Yes, of course. So I've started studying for the first certification that you mentioned, and in the meantime I changed jobs. I was already using AWS, but just like in the console, checking things, making sure everything is all right, restarting some instances, but that was all. And then I moved to a company in the Netherlands where I was a solution architect and a developer in the same time. So I had to learn fast and learn infrastructure as code. And this company had the policy that they won't allow anybody into the AWS account unless they have the solution architect associate, so they will know what they are doing in there. So I went fully for this one. And yeah, they have also this program in which if you get certified, you will get some money on your salary. It wasn't much, but it was like another opportunity to motivate people to get certified. So that was, I quickly 8 months, 3 new certifications. And of course, if you work with it, it's needed, and it's also much maybe not that hard to learn from it because you have the experience for a lot of the services, not for all of them, but the main ones.
So you took 3 certifications in a span of 8 months, right? How much
Yeah.
time did you allot, like to study, or you mentioned about having experience or applying it on your work. So did that help also? And the preparation for the certification is just minimal.
The experience definitely helped a lot. For the first certification, the solution architect associate, I was allowed to learn during my work day, so that was like less than 2 months of learning, and then take the certification. then for the developer one, you have to have some more in-depth experience with AWS. I feel like the solution architect is presenting you what are the services, how you can use it in your scenarios, what are the best use cases, and so on. But the developer, it goes a bit more in depth, and then it comes the sysops for me, which is even more hard to get, let's say. But I took them into this order. So during my learning, I also accumulate some of the experience, and that went well for me.
What's
And
your
then,
other sorry, what was your other two
yeah,
certifications, by the way?
so is one more is the solution architect professional, and that one was hard to get. So for that one, I trained on and off because I was fully working 8 hours a day. Um, like I think maybe 1 year I was keep postponing it and learning when I got the time, but it took me more from when I started to learn for it and making the courage to go and get it. I think it was 1 year.
1 year. Yeah, I remember like when I was preparing for like the path certification path for my previous company. We were advised for the professional certifications you need to have at least 2 years experience, because you really need to be able to apply your knowledge, and the certification will come easier. But you just made it in like in a span of 1 year. Yeah, very, very interesting. We have a question from one of our attendees. She was asking, like, can you tell us about your favorite cloud project?
Oh, I think I love any project that involves Lambda. I'm also a serverless fan. So anything that can be automated and you can use a function to do it is just really interesting and fun and challenging. Um, I've did some of those, and what I learned is that you should set up your environment for the Lambda function to work, and then go into the console and test the code in the console. It will like save you time on deploying it on and off. So you deploy it once with everything it needs, and then just modify it in the console. I think this was the best advice I could get from those experiences, because it's tricky. You have the function, but you still have to have the right trigger, have to have the right permissions, and then it's the code itself that has to do something.
But before, falling in love with Lambda, which AWS technology did you enjoy the most in terms of using for projects or for your work? As long as it's not NBA.
Yeah. So when I first started, as I was saying, I was mainly sort of monitoring the AWS account, what's happening in there, and I think the first service that got my eyes was the Trusted Advisor. I love that I can see what's happening, and also some information about it. So it won't say you don't have ABS volumes backed up, but it will also give you a bit more information about that. So I think it was like a safe place for me to start learning about what is in the AWS account and how it runs, how it should run. And it was at a point in which I just switched careers from telecom. I was designing microwaves networks, so the ones for 5G, 4G, and so on. It wasn't anything IT, so it was like a safe place to start learning about IT.
Very, very interesting journey.
Yeah. But I'm a super big fan of people that switch careers from like teachers or lawyers to IT. I'm a fan of that. I love seeing people transform their careers and going into IT.
Yeah, we have a lot of students here in our meetup right now. what I've seen, for somebody who's already in her 40s, what I've seen is, the technology has become a great equalizer. Whether you're from the province or the different part of here in the Philippines, you don't need to go to the city anymore to be able to find really great job, but rather you can focus on learning the latest technologies that can help you, balance out the skills, versus what is being taught in the, schools and universities also. So if you're starting out, maybe like you can give a recommendation also who just, join, our meetup. Maybe you can like give some tips if they're starting out, learning about cloud or tech in general as well.
I think maybe a thing that I've waited maybe too much to do, and it certainly helped me a lot, was to be involved in the community. Like trying to apply for the AWS community builders. There is this nice program, and you have a lot of support and help there. You are like in the middle of the what's happening into the AWS world, so that will be helpful. Because when you start your journey, you feel like you're right somewhere outside, but if you try to be inside the community, you feel more like welcomed, more, you have a lot of resources you can use, and that will definitely help. And of course, go for the jobs that require these skills, even though you don't have them or you consider you don't have them. If you get a solution architect associate certification, for sure you will have a lot of opportunities to be hired and start practicing what you learned. So that will be a good start as well.
That's good. We have a career shifter also from one of our attendees. So Alistair used to be a seaman or a seafarer before he switched to tech or IT. Really cool, Alistair. So really great tips from Andra about being involved in the community. So we'd love to have more volunteers here in AWSUG BuildHers Plus. Hopefully one of you will be able to speak and share also. You don't have to be an expert to actually share your experience. If you're just starting out or tinkering on like a new technology, and you want to share your learnings about it, you can certainly do so. So that's a really great start also. Or if you're starting and you stumbled stumbled on a challenge, you can also ask for help on how you can fix it or how you can improve it also. If you have more questions about well-architected framework, please ask. Please put your question in the chat box. There's an interesting question from the one of our attendees. I'm not so sure if you have like a multi-cloud experience also, Andra, but maybe you can share thoughts. Like apparently GCP is cheaper than AWS. Why should they still continue using AWS if that's the case?
I don't have a multi-cloud experience, but I did a bit of research for a small presentation inside the team about this AWS versus Azure versus GCP. So what were the advices that I saw were that any solution architecture that you design. So if you have an application, you will have to draw your solution architecture. And what you can do is start comparing the prices for each of them, because from what I saw during that researching process was that some clouds are better than the others on some topics. So see what you so here the well-architected framework may be helpful, putting those questions to you, so you can see what are your exact needs, and what cloud will fulfill those needs better. So I think this is, I know it's a general answer, but it will depend on your solution in the end and on your end goals, of course.
Yeah, in my experience, actually, with AWS, the maturity of AWS products, it comes out a lot cheaper as well. At the same time, there are more AWS engineers that are available to help you and work on the projects. And on my experience, AWS partnership program is really amazing. So if you have a solution or you're working on a project, you can easily tap a partner, or AWS matches you with a partner also. But again, these are personal experiences on um, on which technologies. And you are correct, Andra. It really depends on the solution that you are working on, and you have to figure out, which cloud platform will work well for you. Because you might be able to save in the short period, but on a long term, right, you have to consider that as well. Yeah, so we have a feedback as well. It depends on the client preferences as well. Some clients already have infra setup in a particular cloud provider. Thank you, Iris. Thank you for sharing. Any more questions for Andra? Yes, you were supposed to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it was a good question because I saw that also Azure and Google Cloud are taking more projects into the technical world. I saw companies talking about being on AWS and talking about, okay, we should consider maybe Azure as well. And yeah, but you're right as well, Ishel. I think AWS has this maturity level that we feel safe using it, and we have a lot of support.
Yeah, the support is really, really amazing. Like on ground level, even online support, and the community support as well.
Definitely,
Again, because
yeah.
AWS is a frontliner in terms of the cloud platform, right? So you're talking about, like, the maturity of the ecosystem as a whole. Does anyone have more questions, especially if you're starting out? Feel free to ask questions also. Oh, from JC, what tool or software do you use to create architecture diagrams?
Oh, I used Lucidchart. I can share the link. I think it was first an unpaid version and then was a paid version by the company. And I found it really nice. It has some updated icons for AWS, so it's pretty nice to use. I will put a link into the chat.
Okay. Oh, there. Andra sent the link to Lucidchart also. Andra, what are the best? I don't know if you shared in the presentation, pardon for that one, but, like, maybe you can give more, like, best practices on well-architected framework. And, based on your experience, what are the most common pitfalls also, or like errors that you can make on well-architected framework, or even serverless or Lambda?
Yeah, I think I've seen this before, and I know it's still happening. Is this fear of going to the cloud? from the on-prem, and I think having this well-architected framework really shows you be how to be sure that your workload is safe into the cloud and it works as expected. And I think it's, as a best practice, is like for anybody who's trying to move to the cloud, not really learning the cloud, let's say, but for companies that want to move to the cloud, it's important to read this well-architected framework and to ask themselves these questions, because sometimes when you move from on-prem, you don't even know what questions to ask. You don't really know exactly what you need. I mean, you know for sure you want to be secure, but how do you want to be secure? What are the things to consider in order to be secure into the cloud? So this will be a good starting point for any company that wants to move to the cloud. Read the well-architected framework, do some sessions with the team, make sure like everybody knows what you are talking about and knows what you want to achieve with it, because at the end of the day is the business value that any company wants. But you have to have all these discussions and have the right team and the right solution for these business values to be meet up.
Thanks, Sandra. I actually missed one question earlier. Sorry, I didn't mean to ignore your question. But one of our attendees, Benjo, asked, like, do you own your do you own your data with AWS?
Yeah, you definitely own your data. The AWS has this agreement that won't like use your data for anything else than maybe in the case they will have to support you. I haven't read fully that agreement because I was not the one to make the decision to go into the cloud, but it's the shared responsibility model, I think, that is also covering this. And yeah, you have to go through it, but you own your data in the cloud. Nobody else will own your data.
Yeah, it is correct. We have a shared responsibility model, and AWS being in the business for so long, or like like the pioneer and the top in terms of the platform, they put in so much value on the data and the privacy of the data of each of their clients as well. Keep the interesting questions coming if you have more. I hope you have time, Andra. I hope you still have time and you're enjoying as well.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, I am really enjoying. Yeah, I
Oh,
was thinking when, yeah,
sorry. Go ahead.
I was thinking when you said about this shifting into the IT, that we start having something to gain from going to the IT, but I was thinking, okay, but the IT also has something to gain from us, because we come from such diverse backgrounds and we are offering such a valuable feedback. Like if you're considering also like machine learning and AI, it's so nice to have people from all around the globe doing anything else, having a different background than just IT, uh, giving their inputs. So this is
Yeah,
what IT is gaining in my point of view.
true. We have in our attendees. So was one of our speakers in our meetup last year, and she's into data science and machine learning and AI. If you don't mind me asking a question, uh, you mentioned something earlier about your writing articles also, right? So what kind of articles do you actually share, and what was your inspiration in terms of writing articles also, and what made you apply to as a community builder? So I think that those are three questions.
No worries. Yeah, so I wanted to be more involved. I will share my page in dev.to. And what inspired me at first was also my old company who started this technical blog, which I love companies that have their technical blog, because this way we can all learn from each other. And the first articles were actually about some work-related issues that I've struggled with, and then I wrote something about them. And this just gave me such a joy, because it's really painful when you don't know how to solve it and you're stuck with it for days, maybe weeks, and then you get to solve it and then you get to share it. So that's the best feeling ever, sharing it. And also when I'm sharing it, when I start writing the article, I feel like I'm even understanding it better, because I have to explain it. I'm explaining it for myself as well. So I think this uh, I gain a lot from writing these articles. But then I moved on to the because what I'm doing now is more like DevOps oriented, and the scenarios are not such general scenarios. I've wrote something about reInvent and my experience preparing for reInvent, which was stressful at first because I've never attended, and yeah, I was reading and searching information online how to make out the best from the experience. And yeah, I'm trying to share my experiences, and this also fills me with joy and motivation to do that.
Yeah, so it helps you become a better communicator also, right? When you write down,
Yeah.
like, from the technical aspect of things to, sharing, like, how you can help people understand what you're going through, or what are the challenges you're experiencing. um you mentioned, like, you need to prepare for AWS reInvent, right? uh was it, like, even more challenging because of the pandemic? I mean, coming from Amsterdam, going to the US and things like that, was it really more challenging than, a typical in-person type minus the pandemic?
Yeah, definitely. I think I was lucky enough to already have the visa for the United States, because you need one. And then here in Romania, the embassy was closed and wasn't issuing any visas for tourists because it's pandemic and everything is frozen. So I already had a visa, but I had an expired passport. So
Oh, wow.
all I had to do was to change it, and the passport offices were open. So I changed my passport and used my visa from the other passport. I was visiting with two passports for it, but it went fine for me. I think I was lucky because the borders were open in November, even though I booked the tickets in October. I think when you receive this grant, you have a certain a period of time in which you have to book everything, your hotel, your flight. So that I think I got lucky because a lot of things could have gotten wrong, and I may not be able to go there. So I was still like anxious until I've landed in the US.
What was your favorite announcement during AWS reInvent? What made you excited with, the announcement that you made?
I think the sustainability pillar was the highlight for me. I'm also like a fan of everything sustainability and environment, and I'm trying to do my part in it. And seeing it announced at reInvent, it showed me that I'm not alone. So the big companies are doing something, because of course it's not just us; it's the big companies that should take action. And this was like a good one for me. It was also interesting to see the private 5G announcement. That was interesting. And
Oh,
also
maybe
that
because you're working in a telco. Does that make it sure?
because yeah,
Disconnected.
and that
She was Vodafone.
yeah.
Yeah, this is like very, very interesting. Like in person. I've been wanting and missing in person events. Also. Maybe you can share also how the community events in Amsterdam has changed because of the pandemic, and then and also how do you engage more people to be part of it as well?
So I was late to come to the to come into the community, as I was saying, at the point in which I decided to attend meetups because I lived in Bucharest and then moved to Amsterdam, and in Bucharest there were not a lot of um, these events. Um, I actually got only to one in-person meetup, only one about serverless. That was all, and then everything was online. So I couldn't say much, but at that only one event in person that I was at, it was really fun. You have the breaks in which you can have something to drink and have a real chat with somebody, not just the 10 minutes break and everybody goes to their own kitchen to drink a glass of water and things like that. So yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with in-person events.
Oh, wow. Okay. So hopefully, we're looking forward to better days. And hopefully you can
Yeah.
visit us also here in the Philippines and have an in-person meetup as well. I mean, I forgot to ask you, like, how did you apply, and how did you got interested to be part of the community builder program of AWS?
I've heard about the program, and I it was really something I wanted to be part of because of the good words that I've heard about it, and because you're colleague with a lot of very good and knowledgeable people, and that means a lot. Other than the cool swag, of course, which you receive if you join, and the possibility also to connect and to exchange ideas and to meet at some point. We've met at reInvent with some of the community builders, so that was really nice.
Wow. So from online to in person as well. So
Yeah, yeah,
you just didn't expand your technical knowledge, but you also expanded your network, right? So that's another
definitely.
advantage of being active in the community, whether online or in person. So those are, if for the students here in our meetup, those are tips for you. Like those are good points where you can establish yourselves as well. Do you have more questions from our attendees also? Let me quickly check, like, the chat or the messages. I might have missed out some. If you have another technology that you want to learn, what would that be? I mean, for AWS related.
Well, it's not really a technology that I'm uh, planning to learn, but I'm planning to do more certifications. So I will want to focus more onto the security, towards the security specialty certification, and hence I will have to dive deeper into everything security in AWS, like KMS, IAM, and this kind of services. This is my plan, and also after that I will want to expand my networking skills as well, like not socializing but real networking into that. Because yeah, I think networking, it was like one of the things that I was doing before switching careers, and now I can do it with AWS. That will be fun to do, but in any plans, we have to prioritize things, and I think I will prioritize the security and then the networking part.
Interesting. I heard security is pretty hard. I mean, the certification part. So I wish you all the best on that one. And I'm sure
Thank
you'll
you.
pass it with flying colors.
Thanks.
All right. I think we covered. Oh, we suddenly had a question. Oh, is it required to be expert or master programming before learning AWS? From Joffrey, one of our attendees.
Joining AWS as working for AWS or just learning about AWS?
I think his question is like, do you need to be an expert in terms of program or developing,
Okay.
or you deep dive, or you before you start on learning AWS? Joffrey,
I
if
would
if I got your question right, please let me know.
I will definitely say no. I had almost no experience coding when I joined this company, and I was doing infrastructure as code with CDK. I found like CDK to be a good place to start if you have like a team that's has more experience than you, because what I had to do was to learn Python, and learning Python, you can develop your infrastructure as code. With CDK, you can build your Lambda function. So it's just one thing that you have to learn and apply it everywhere. So that's efficiency, right? So yeah, you don't have to have the experience. In my point of view, everything can be learned. You just other than your your will to learn is also like the environment in which you are. So the environment has to help you out, because let's be honest, you spend like 8 to 9 hours, maybe more, at your work. You don't have the energy to go home and start learning CDK if you're not using CDK at your workplace. So having it as part of your job is definitely helpful.
Yeah, Alistair here, who was a career shifter, his background was, a seafarer, a seaman, and then he learned how to code. Maybe you can chat about your experience, Alistair, from shifting as well. Yeah, and personally, I learned how to code pretty late in the game. I started learning how to code when I was in my 30s already. I had to build our work website at the time because nobody was available to do the website. So I was first to learn how to code. But it has, the whole landscape, and then the technology in the community has changed so much from the time that I learned how to code. So there's no such thing as learning it late in the game. But if you're a student and you're just starting out, this is the best time for you to enhance your skill as well.
Nice story, Shil.
And also you can check out, like, there are free training programs or AWS training from Udemy and even on the AWS site itself. So you can check that out. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. This has been a great discussion. Andra, you've stayed much longer than you're supposed to, and you entertained our questions from, learning, from certification, from your actual work, and even on the topic that you shared, which is well-architected framework. So thank you very much for your time. And thank you, everyone, for staying uh, this late already. I know it's a school and work day for everyone. For those who have messaged me directly to request for the e-certificate, just give us a day or two to process it, and we'll send it to your emails as well. If you haven't messaged me yet, please do so, or you can send it to, let me give the email address. All right, I'll put it down here in the chat for everyone to see. Yeah, so you can send it to that email also and we'll process it for you. So thank you. If you have suggestions on what topics you want the community to discuss or to highlight on our upcoming events, please send us suggestions. You can join our FB group. You can also join our LinkedIn group. And as I mentioned, for the month of March, which is International Women's Month, we'll have the all Sundays of March. That's March 6, 13, 20, and 27. I hope I got my date right. I'm correct. Surprisingly. So all Sundays of March will have free sessions or mentoring and review sessions for those who are interested to take the AWS Cloud Practitioner and SAA, or the Solutions Architect Associate certification. We'll also have a International Women's Month celebration on March 24. So we'll send the link, or you can check meetup.com for the link as well, or even our social media channels. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for a great evening. And, thank you again, Andrea, for being such an amazing speaker and for imparting your knowledge and expertise as well on AWS.
Thank you very much for having me. It was really a pleasure to be here and to talk to you.
We'll be checking out your site, and we hope to connect with you on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.